Are we recording? Yes, we are. It's afternoon now, isn't it? Yeah, right on the buzzer. Good afternoon, everybody. James Graham here, delivery manager at CDPS and Bawb, or do we say Prynhawn now? I don't know. My Welsh is terrible. I do apologise. It's great to see everybody. Thank you so much for giving up your time. Just going to run you through the presentation we've got. I'm just going to share my screen now, so it'll be brief. It's just about the previous 2 weeks of work that we've done. Can I see a thumbs up if you can see my screen, please? Fantastic. Thank you ever so much. Okay, I'm just going to go through. So we're a multidisciplinary team with user researchers, service designers, product managers, and delivery managers. And we're representing CDPS for the Streamlining Welsh Benefits project. We've got 2 work streams. We've got work stream 1, which is user research focused, and work stream 2, which is service design focused. And today you're going to hear from our user researcher and service designer on the project. So work stream 1 was to uncover and understand how marginalised people in Wales experience the benefit system. Now, last show and tell, we went into more detail about the user research findings. Sarah, our user researcher, will touch on it today, but if you want a more detailed show and tell, please look at last week's. Elise, our comms individual, will share in the chat as well that link, so you can easily get to it, and also at the end of this meeting as well. And we will be sending out the report soon as well. So we're finding out what stops them from getting the support they should have, and learn how they're using the 3 Welsh benefits that are in scope: so free school meals, school essentials grant, and council tax reduction. Work stream 2 is testing a streamlined user experience concept with Welsh councils, check if it's feasible, viable, and desirable, and build support from councils to help it grow. So I'm going to hand over to Sarah now to lightly touch upon our user research. So Sarah, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. So we undertook research with 31 people from different marginalised groups who were users of the benefit system. They crossed the 5 user groups that we were looking at, and there was quite a lot of intersectionality between those 31 people as well. And we also spoke to 10 proxy users who were housing support officers to find out how they supported people when they were making claims for benefits. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a high level kind of playback of some of the findings. So some of the findings that we came across were around awareness, understanding, and accessibility. So users lacked awareness and understanding of what benefits they may be eligible for. They told us that not all application forms were accessible, and that the complexity of the form felt like an additional barrier. So this often led to users needing support to apply. We've had some findings around emotional and social challenges as well, where interviewees told us that they were often going through traumatic life events when they were interacting with the benefits system, and the associated stigma of claiming benefits sometimes impacted their mental health and stopped them from applying. There was some fear and distrust towards the benefit system, and people's attitudes towards government, local authorities, and the benefit system were often polarised. Some other findings focused around the organisational coordination and communication issues, where we heard that disjointed processes between and within organisations that were involved in delivering benefits caused challenges for the user, and interviewees needed more reliable channels of communication with public sector organisations. And then finally, some of the benefits focused around the financial impact and employment barriers. So people who were receiving benefits experienced financial barriers to returning to work and employment, and those in receipt of benefits are financially dependent upon them. However, those who receive benefits are grateful for the positive impact that benefits have. Next slide, please, James. So we also focused in on the 3 devolved Welsh benefits of free school meals, school essentials grant, and council tax reduction. So most of the people that we spoke to were aware of free school meals, although there was some confusion around universal and eligible free school meals. The application process was mixed, with some finding it straightforward and some needing support. Whereas Schools Essential Grant, many of those interviewed were unaware, including some who were eligible. People interviewed felt that the guidance and eligibility criteria was not clear. And then finally, council tax reduction. Many of those that were interviewed weren't aware of council tax reduction, including, again, some who were eligible. Many had to be signposted to it, and lots of the people we spoke to found it quite confusing. Those that were in receipt of universal credit found the application process easier than those who had to complete the full council tax reduction application, which was found to be onerous and challenging. So, as James mentioned, the previous show and tell went into more detail about the user research, and we have got a full report that we'll be sharing once it's ready to be shared, so keep an eye out for when that is shared. But I'll pass on to Adam now.
Thanks, Sarah. So this phase of the work is drawing to a close now, so I'm going to do a quick recap on how we got to where we are and what we've done during this phase to start with. So the previous phase of work created a streamlined application process concept. This was based on an understanding of how councils currently administer benefits, and we spoke to a number of councils to build this understanding and did a lot of research in this space. And the concept consisted of two journeys. One was the residents who were in the Universal Credit Data Share and was focused on sort of maximum automation of the application process. And Journey 2 dealt with those who still need to apply directly to the council, and it focused on creating a concept for a single simplified application form. So that was the previous phase. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this phase was to test this concept that we'd come up with councils themselves. We tested the concept previously with residents, but we hadn't tested it with councils. So during this phase, we've tested it with 4 councils. The Universal Credit Data Share journey tested positively, largely. So in many cases, councils are already doing many of the recommendations that we put in place and are open-minded about adopting the other recommendations that we made as well. However, the second journey, for those who are applying directly through the simplified application form, we did identify some issues. And this was because we had simplified the form as much as possible on the basis that much of the information that was required to assess people for these benefits could be gathered from DWP's Searchlight database. And in actual fact, what we found out is some key information is missing in Searchlight. So what we've done after finding these issues exist is switch direction to do some further research to find out how we can address these issues. And we've ended up prototyping a new simplified application form. And this was demoed last time we did a show and tell. And so again, if you follow the link that's been shared, you can watch our demonstration of that, of the new application form there. Next slide, please. So what I thought it might be useful to do this week is explain to you some of the thinking that underpins this simplified application form that we demonstrated last time. And it's the basic idea is, if we can understand what it is councils need to know to assess somebody for the in-scope benefits, and we understand what councils already have access to through the various databases that they have access to, then we can take one away from the other, and that tells us what a simplified application form needs to collect. And not only that, if we can understand how these things vary according to an applicant's individual circumstances, we can also work out which questions we need to show to applicants so that each applicant only answers questions that are directly relevant to their situation. So that's the basic thinking that we were trying to achieve as we created this prototype concept. Next slide, please. So when we're thinking about what councils need to know, the main information burden lies around council tax reduction. As we heard from the marginalised group's research, it's an onerous application as it stands. Most councils, as far as we know, combine that with a housing benefit application as well. So we need to consider housing benefit at the same time. So if you take what councils need to know for council tax reduction and what they need to know for housing benefit, and you overlay them, and then you add in what's required for free school meals and the school essentials grant, we end up with a list of information, pieces of information that we think councils need to get from an applicant in order to assess them accurately for this. And we estimate this to be around about 113 pieces of information, according to our calculations. Next slide, please. So now if we know what councils need to know, we need to understand what councils have access to. And we focus primarily on DWP's Searchlight here. We know that other things are in use, such as verify earnings and pensions from HMRC and the eligibility checking system as well. But Searchlight contains the biggest amount of information that will be relevant to this situation. So it's important to note here that who we're trying to simplify for specifically are people who are receiving universal credit or pension credit. And this would probably make up the majority of applicants for council tax reduction and housing benefit at the moment. So when we spoke to councils, they told us that Searchlight is missing the following key information when it comes to assessing people for council tax reduction. And that's the details of any non-dependents that are living with them, details of any disabilities or long-term health conditions, and associated with that, any benefits they might be receiving in relation to those. And then also some key details of the universal credit or pension credit award breakdown, including absolute clarity around things like any earned income and stuff like that. And that can often be missing in the Searchlight record. But when we take away what we now know councils have access to from what we know they need to collect, we estimate there's actually 50 pieces of information roughly left that need to appear in a form. Next slide, please. So next we need to look at what are the circumstances that would affect what information an applicant would need to provide. And that's, of course, what benefit are they applying for? If they're just applying for free school meals and the school essentials grant, it's a very different picture to if they're also applying to council tax reduction and housing benefit. And then crucially, what benefit are they receiving? Because that tells us a lot about what information is going to be available to councils, but also what rules apply to them, and therefore what information they need to provide in order to apply for the thing they're applying for. Then the presence of disabilities or long-term health conditions is also needed to be known, as well as the presence of any non-dependents, as we now know the form needs to ask people for details of these things. Now, if you work out all the various combinations of these things, we estimate there's around 32 different variations of people who may be applying, and they all have different amounts of information they'll need to provide. Next slide, please. So here's a table that lays out all the different variations that I just talked about, and this shows the impact of if you take the time to work out a route through the form to only ask for the required information, it can have a very significant effect on the number of questions that an individual is asked. So if we look on the far left-hand side there, somebody who is applying for council tax reduction, who is receiving the guaranteed credit part of pension credit, could potentially apply for council tax reduction with only 10 questions. And that can go all the way up to somebody who's applying for all of the in-scope benefits, who is receiving universal credit and has non-dependents living in their house, will have to answer 44 questions. And there's many different gradations in between as well. So this shows the huge impact that can be achieved by sequencing the questions in the application form to only ask the absolutely required information from the applicant. Because clearly some of these people can have a very, very short and easy application experience. But even those who are doing the most complicated one are still answering far fewer questions than the typical forms are asking currently. Next slide, please. So we now feel like we've taken our work in this space around trying to create a single simplified application form as far as we can without direct involvement from those of you who are assessing applications for these benefits on a daily basis. You're deeply familiar with Searchlight and the other databases you're using. You know the rules of the benefit system inside out. And we need you to work with us to check our thinking now. Is the rationale that we've put in place to underpin this simplified form correct? Are there errors there? If so, how do we correct them? Or indeed, could we find even more efficiencies to be gained as well? And we also need to test if this simplified application form is feasible for councils to implement, potentially from a technical basis and from an operationalisation basis as well. What process changes would be needed behind the scenes in order to assess cases that are coming through this simplified application form? And therefore, we ask if there are any councils here on the call, can you help us? We would love you to come and basically mark our homework, look at our thinking, let us know what we've got wrong, and work with us to see whether there's any legs in this concept that we've got. Because we feel like if it works, it could make a significant impact on the user experience of people who are applying for these very, very important benefits. So please do get in touch. So I'm going to stop there and we'll pause and see if there are any comments or questions to be had. Thanks very much.
David?
Just to add to the ask, I think is the offer. Welsh Government is happy as well to look to support anyone who wants to work with the CDPS if there's additional capacity burdens or stuff like that. So for anyone or local authorities on the call who are thinking they might be able to work with CDPS, we're open to conversations then on what that might need in order to help facilitate that. So I will put my email address in the chat now. So if anybody needs to have a chat with me about that as well, in order to engage with CDPS on this, just give me a shout.
Thank you, David.
Anybody else? And please shout out if there's anything that we've presented today that you know to be incorrect, for example, or if you've got any questions about the other thinking that's involved, please feel free to shout out.
Yeah, part of the show and tell us is to be totally transparent, working in the open as per standards. So we're open to criticism as well. It's you know, we're big enough and old enough to take it. Tiana, hi.
Hi. Yeah, I'm really interested in this at the minute because just this morning I've been talking to somebody in our sort of communities digital about how we get around possibly combining a housing benefit with our existing CTR and free school meals application. So, you know, the offer of working with CDPS, would that be to actually trial a form or build a form? I just wondered.
Yeah, so there's various options available to us. So it could go from anything from looking at our rationale, our thinking, to check that it's accurate or correct, right through to testing out, building a working form in a test environment, for example, based on our thinking so far. Okay. And we can go all the way up to testing whether that works for caseworkers who are processing these applications, as well as testing it with your residents as well. And we'd be happy to do the legwork on that to help make that a reality.
Okay, great, thank you.
So yeah, if you're interested, please do get in touch.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Tiana.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Don't be shy.
Can't see any more hands raised, so as I say, silent for the 5 minutes, but really, guys, there is sorry, excuse me, our contact details have been shared in the chat, right? So if you think of something after this call, maybe you're not comfortable speaking out now, that's also okay. I just want to say thank you again for coming and giving up your time for us. It's really, really helpful. It's great for us to be able to show our work and hopefully engage with everybody as well. So really, really appreciate it. Diolch yn fawr. Yeah, so our contact emails are shared, so please do reach out if you've got anything pops into your head at all. We'd like to hear from you. Yeah, great. And if not, enjoy the weather. It's ridiculously wet in Cardiff today, so yeah, I hope it's not too bad for you guys. Lauren, did you want to jump in with anything, or no? Sorry, you just come off mute. It's all right, you're right in front of me. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay, fab. Right, have a great rest of your week, everybody, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you.
Thanks all.
all.
Bye.
Thank you.